appropriately going to name this video Bare Bones. Hello lovely people, today is October 11th. It's just after midnight, so we're just a little bit into Thursday. It's been a long time since I've been on a YouTube video, so I thought I'd just kick off with this one and kind of give you a little bit of idea what's been going on. A little over a year ago when I come home, I believe it was in August. I don't remember the month for sure. It's been a crazy year. I saw one of my neighbors wandering around in the yard, and long story short, I watched that night and subsequently many nights over the course of the last year. And the more that I watched, the more I realized that pretty much every single one of the neighbors that live on my block have been spying on me, and not like just looking out their windows and casually looking. They're like walking around my property line and spying on me. It pretty much just set me out of my skin. I knew that over the course of the last 20 years of living in my property that I have had my neighbors watching me. I just didn't realize to what extent they were doing that. Now I live on a dead-end street, and there are 3 property owners on this block that are related, and at one time or another, I would have to say every single one of them have spied on me. I'm now beginning to realize, having watched other YouTubers with similar problems, what the root of the problem is and what's going on. It still makes me really uncomfortable. I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with it, but it's really complicated my PTSD anxiety to the point where I literally emotionally collapsed. I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. I really felt like I was going crazy because I didn't know what to do. There was years ago that I videotaped one of my neighbors stealing off my property, and I gave it to the police department, and that they said that that was not enough proof. So I knew that I couldn't go to the police department. I live on a very fixed, small income. I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford a lot of things to try to figure out what to do with this. And it's only now recently that I've finally got to the point where I'm just adjusting, or go a step further and install some lights to get rid of some more of the dark areas. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to do things to keep people from spying in my windows. Essentially, this kicked off when I caught somebody taking a photograph of me in my living room window. Somebody taking a photograph of me in my living room window. I was sitting on my couch. It was approximately 4 foot from my face, and the flash of the camera is what grabbed my attention. I just happened to be sitting on my couch naked at midnight. We'll just leave it at that. But it did send me over the edge. So, on to the bare bones. Several months ago, I bought me an LED light with the light bulb built into the fixture and didn't realize what I had purchased until I got it home. And I was like, okay, that's not a big deal. Figured it'd be kind of a cool little situation. So I put the light fixture in, and when I turned it off, I noticed that the light never completely went out. There was always this tiny glow. I did a little research on the internet, and apparently that can be a problem, but eventually in a few hours it'll go out, but it never did go out. So I'm like, it's probably a ground wire issue or something. So I took the light fixture down. And so in August, I took a couple of weeks, which turned out to be more closer to 3 weeks. I took off for my birthday, and I'm like, you know what? I've taken off plenty of time. I'm going to put this light fixture in, and however far I got to tear in and fix it, that's what I'll do. Not a big deal. I've done lots of repairs and different things on my house. When I first bought this house over 20 years ago, I spent probably 3 months round the clock working, fixing things. Like this 150-year-old country school had never been taped or textured on the sheetrock. They'd just been painting over the seams all these years. It was just kind of mind-blowing to me. So I fixed all that. There were no closets. I put closets in the house. So there was a lot of things that I did. Anyhow, so I wasn't afraid of fixing some things in the house. Well, fast forward now to August again. I'm fixing the light. Before I knew it, I'm like, you know what? Well, I've tore this down. I've been wanting to do this. Let's just go ahead and tear down a little farther down the wall, which is actually this wall. I knew that I was going to be building in an entertainment center into this wall. And then before I knew it, I'm like, well, I want to put a hide-a-door in, so let's just tear that out too. And I'm like, well, there's just a little chunk of sheetrock left. Why don't I just tear that out and replace the whole wall with sheetrock? Well, before I knew it, half the sheetrock was down in my house. And there's just a bunch of updates and different things that I've been wanting to do over the course of the last 20 years. So I'm doing it now. All of it. I know that this process is probably going to take me about a year. I figure about probably in April of 2019, I'm going to swap my dining room and kitchen around. I have other reasons for wanting to do this. I want the south side dining room to get all the windows, but it also prevents my neighbors who like to watch me quite often from looking directly into my kitchen while I'm cooking. So this will kind of isolate me a little bit and make me feel a little less out there for everyone to see. So I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to build a little addition off the back of the house. I moved the wall in the bathroom, so the bathroom is bigger. I had an 18-inch sink in there. I couldn't put a bigger sink in there. I literally had the smallest bathroom you could possibly make and still have a toilet, a tub, and a sink. There was a window on the other side of the wall that was literally butted up right against the wall. So in order for me to put in a bigger sink, I had to move the window, which was in the living room, which is actually straight right through that way. So I moved the window, moved the wall, and just the more and more I got into it, you'd be amazed at how simple it looks to do things when you remove all the sheetrock and you're looking at the bare bones. I kind of thought about these old houses like this opposed to the new houses today. If you were to say, well, I stripped my house down to the bare bones, a young kid might not get the reference. But when you have an old house like this, it's pretty clear why they call it bare bones. This literally looks like a rib cage. So it is pretty fascinating. I really adore this. As I've gone through this process, I've realized that most of my house is built out of cedar and oak. The only real pine in it is this lath, which then was covered with sheetrock or covered with plaster. I also discovered that pretty much this whole house is insulated with wool. This being a government school, they did build these houses a little more structurally sound and better back then. So I really has become a labor of love. And if you follow my Twitter account, Country School Gardens, you'll see why I've named my estate this. I loosely term estate, but you're more than welcome to find me on there. You can also find me on my Instagram under the same name as this YouTube channel. I post a lot of pictures of there and updates. I have mostly interacted on Twitter and Instagram over this past year. So if you are really wanting to follow me, and if I'm irregular or fall off the wagon a little bit on making YouTube videos, that is a really great way to keep in contact and update with me. I know that it's been a long time since I posted YouTube videos. One of the other reasons why I'm doing this house the way that I'm doing is I'm trying to get it stage ready, if that makes any sense. I'm just updating some lighting and things like that. So the title of this video being Bare Bones is also a metaphor for what I have discovered in the last year or two of what I actually want to end up doing on YouTube. Yes, there's going to be a lot of me and my creativity, painting, gardening, poetry, writing. I'm going to use this to promote my book, Tornado in the Garden, coming out in 2020. And then just in general, letting my artistic abilities fly and doing what I want. At the same time, I feel that we live in a society that the building blocks, the very foundation of our civilization from 2,000 years ago is flawed. It's deeply, deeply flawed. And just like when you build a house on sand, it doesn't matter how much time you spend above ground adding and fixing, trying to make it better, the foundation is the problem. So I want to try to peel back our society and get down to the bare bones. And I think when I start to lay things out for you, you're going to realize that, yes, we do live in a flawed society. And I'm going to point out some really good, basic problems that's wrong. And I know that the way that I do this has to be handled with very delicate hands because of some of the subject matter that I am going to be touching on. Is I was in the middle of trying to develop my YouTube channel and try to figure out where I'm going with this. Was also in the middle of a very big paradigm shift for myself. I have oftentimes said in my life to people that I feel like I'm eccentric. Eccentric isn't the word that I understood it to be until I really started looking at the definition of eccentric, and it's strange and different. To me, I always thought of it as sort of an obsessive, different way of beating about life. And that's still true to me, but I'm now beginning to think of myself more as an anomaly. And the reason why I say that is because they say that you're 1 in a million. Do you realize that if you're 1 in a million, there are 7,000 people just like you on this world? I don't know if there are 7,000 people like me on this world. The reason why that I feel that I am different than most people begins with my childhood. I did suffer from a very traumatic, abusive childhood. I'm not saying it's the worst traumatic experience that anyone could go through, but for someone like me, it was. I remember having a conversation with a guy who was from Oklahoma, I believe, and he was talking about a book that he was recommended to read on how to raise a sensitive boy. I thought this man was quite incredible because here was this very masculine, dominant looking man, and here he was taking the time to understand his boy was not going to be like him. And I applauded him for that. I, on the other hand, was that sensitive boy, and I was treated very aggressively, and I have some feelings to believe that it was a way to toughen me up, and all it did was broke me. Combine that with the fact that an abusive parent will usually keep their kids out of the public eye. I didn't have friends. I didn't go out for sports. The 1 or 2 friends that I had sporadically through my life as my mom moved around from school to school, which was about 10 times I changed schools growing up. So what ended up happening is that I become very isolated and alone, and I become an observer. And as I am now pushing 50, I'm still watching and learning, but as I have taken all my wide variety of interests, particularly since January 2011 when this, let's call it King's Castle Hospital, destroyed my life, when I was on a mechanical ventilator for 36 hours and they pulled the tube out of my throat and let me get behind the wheel within a couple of hours knowing I was going to go home alone, and very bad things happened. What that did to me destroyed me. I'm not even going to touch on that subject in this video because that's another video all of its own. However, because of that situation, I had been living in my house at that time for, I believe, 17 years, and I never had cable TV. I had to get cable TV because I had to keep noise going on and give me something to watch or read or this or that. I got a computer, a laptop. I watched news like everything, constantly, all day long, every waking minute of my day was concentrated on something in front of me to read, because one moment that I let myself think, I started to cry. My situation is still there. It's still very real. It still pains me. This house project is probably just another extension of me trying to keep myself busy, and it does. The chaos that this has created would drive most people crazy, but for me, it keeps my mind on the chaos and not the problem about my life. We're going into stripping down the bare bones of our society, and particularly I'm going to hit on the boxes that we have created for people, and we try to put people in boxes and categorize them. And now when you get into sexuality issues, you're starting to see people create more boxes, like this list here. The reason why we're having to create more boxes is because we should have never put people in boxes to begin with. Now, I understand why we put people in boxes, because it's a way to kind of know how to deal with different kinds of people. But when they become labels and definitions, that's the problem. It becomes problematic, especially when you put someone in a box and that person says, I don't feel like what you've defined that box as. I am not going to be put in a box. You cannot put me in a box. I don't belong in a box. I always think outside of the box. I want you all to know that I am not and cannot give up making YouTube videos. In this PTSD anxiety situation that I was talking about when I got the internet and cable in 2011, because it was the only thing that kept me from jumping over the edge. Let's be real honest. I am sort of surprised that I'm still alive for a lot of different reasons. But in this process, YouTube videos were the only thing that made me feel not alone. I sat on my couch day after day, month after month, with absolutely no social life. I've chased all my family away. The few friends that I had, I didn't associate with anybody anymore. And I'm still there. But now I'm comfortable staying there because I'm afraid of people. I don't trust anyone. I trust you guys out there that I'll never meet better than I'll ever trust anybody who's close to me. Particularly after what I've experienced with my neighbors in this last year. It's resurrected my awareness that I have a problem with my neighbors. As I have learned about YouTubers that I have watched, I didn't realize that in the back of my head I was learning how to become a YouTuber. And I know for me, being someone isolated and YouTube being my only outlet to not feel alone, I now want to become that outlet for you. There's a lot of reasons why I want to do YouTube. I hope I've covered a little bit of those here. So, welcome to my YouTube channel. Follow me if you would like to. I look forward to sharing with you a lot of things, and I have to make sure that I don't scare people away. But there also is going to be YouTube videos that I'm going to make before or after I reach the subject matter, because there are a lot of times when I'm watching a YouTube video or reading through comments of other people's videos and I see some references made to the problem that I see with our society. I oftentimes want to leave a long message and get into a conversation with somebody, but it's just way too big. And I want to have a YouTube video that I can just link to my comment and say, this is what I want to say, you need to watch this. And I hope that there are other people who find this video also useful as they start to understand what I understand, and when they find themselves in these difficult conversations with people on YouTube, because sometimes these YouTube conversations can escalate to anger and harsh words and you lose focus, and then you also lose any valid point, and nobody's gonna learn anything when you're screaming at each other. So I want one of my videos to be what your words that you need to say that you can't because you're frustrated, and then you can share my link. Anyhow, by the way, this shirt, I guess it's Deadpool, but I was walking through a store here this summer. Actually, in August, I bought a few things, quite a few different things for myself at the beginning of the month. Just little things like this to kind of change how I felt. I feel like I'm getting to the point now where I've got my PTSD and anxiety sort of under control. And now that I'm to that point, I wanted to just grab a few more things for myself to sort of change how I feel at home. And these little purchases that I made for myself just made every room feel a little different. And then it was funny, I turn around and tear down half the sheetrock and moving walls and this and that, and my house doesn't even feel the same at this point. Let me just do a little quick tour over here just a minute. I built in my aquarium. When this whole January 2011 thing happened, I had 3 fish aquariums and some birds, and I am almost embarrassed to say, but they all died on me. And this is the first time I've had an aquarium now for 8 years. And I built it in the railing. I'm going to do a bunch of other stuff. My bedroom, I extended this wall out here. I've re-sheetrocked. I re-insulated. Right behind this wall is a furnace, and I cannot believe how much quieter it is in this room. It's amazing to me. And then I come over here, and as you can see, if you see just past that little hole right there, that's where the wall was at. I've extended all this. I originally put in this closet, so it wasn't a big deal to take it down. I added a second clothes rod. There's another one down there. There's a little kind of nook over here, as you can tell. So I got plants in the window. I'm sort of a plant freak. It is what it is for me. Obviously on the top floor, and I'm working my way down. That bare bones wall was my living room. So yeah, I'm really excited about doing all these changes. The house just feels different. It feels quieter. I'm making sure all the insulation is right. I did find a couple of little tiny problems. They're minor. I fixed them. But it was something that needed to be done. I won't tell what it is just because I need to not say anything. So here's my bathroom. I'm not going to show you everything, but this wall behind me didn't exist when I moved into this house. So me tearing this wall down and moving it out wasn't a big deal because I put the wall up in the beginning. I then moved this one out about 10 inches. This is the little tiny sink that was basically right there, and I'm now going to put a sink across this way. The medicine chest was on this wall, and now it's going to be over here. And then the bathroom, I'm going to take the tub and move it straight out that wall. That's just other stuff I'm going to be working on later. There was some other things that happened to me in September that I'm not really comfortable sharing with right now. But I will tell you that the King's Castle overheard me and got me fired at my job. Literally, I was at my job having a discussion with someone, with a customer, and 30 feet from me, a gal overheard me say King's Castle, and within a few hours I was fired from my job. So for that to come full circle back in my life 8 years later, yeah. So we're dealing with that too, and it is not going to be super easy for me to find a job. I'm coming for you, King Castle. this video was important because this wall is getting covered tomorrow. Anyhow, again, see you guys later and hope to have you follow me. Leave a comment in the bottom. Like this video if you want. I do watch and read everything. I'm not anybody special right now, but I feel like in the future I will be. I'm more than willing to interact with people. I'm even willing to interact to some point with the haters, but when I realize that you're thick in the head and I can't get anywhere with you, I'm not going to keep going with you. I realize that there are people who can be standing in the middle of a blizzard and will tell you it's not snowing. Those people I will never reach. Anyhow, talk to you guys later. Bye.